Behind me, the Pałac Pod Blachą here in Warsaw. This is the home of Prince Józef Poniatowski. His home, the place where he had his famous parties, also the War Office. Who was Józef Poniatowski? He was in fact a major figure in Polish history. Patriot, general, Minister of War, sometime Marshal of France. Join me in this episode of Poland Daily History, where we learn more about this remarkable Polish figure. So Poland had assembled this large army as part of the French effort, and in the which later became the Fifth Corps of the Grand Army. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of the advance into Russia, of course.
And that was one thing. That was the biggest unit that was wholly.
Yes,
Polish, but Poles were scattered all over other.
Yes.
For example, the Polish light cavalrymen in the Imperial Guard, for example.
Well, that was the biggest single body,
monolithic
body of Polish troops. And in the early part of the campaign, of course, the French, or rather Poniatowski, was under the command of Bonaparte's brother Jérôme.
At the beginning, but that was a very bad idea because I mean, Poniatowski had one thing in common with Jérôme. They were womanizers, but they didn't share the same military talent. Was a very weak commander, Prince Jérôme. But Napoleon, that was his very big life mistake, that he trusted his brothers and sisters, even when they were, plotting against him. I mean, he had a weakness. He had a weakness typical of, Corsican clans.
I was going to say, yes, that's what the French would no doubt say, well, he was really a Corsican, what do you expect? or they might have said that. But once Jérôme had disappeared,
Jérôme, he disappeared. I mean, he abandoned his corpse. In fact, he should have been executed
for desertion.
For desertion. It's as simple as that. But of course, Bonaparte turned a blind eye.
Being the emperor's brother, because he was probably given
some extra chance.
Yes, but this, of course, was for Poniatowski, the making of him, because then it allowed him to.
And Poniatowski, the point I was trying to make, that Poniatowski was blamed for this miscommandment, let's say, of Jérôme. And there was a very brutal scene when Napoleon was shouting in the presence of other generals, also Polish, and he was shouting at Napoleon that you are very strong, but with your horse and in Warsaw. That's what he said.
Which was probably...
I'm quoting.
Well, it was probably true. I mean, if all we've learned before about these chaps and their off-duty hours, I mean, that was probably true.
But after Smolensk,
but
they
reconciliated.
But
Smolensk was in August, was 1812 was the first major...
First major battle.
And then followed it in the beginning of September by Borodino?
Borodino, in Polish historiography called Możajsk, and in the French historiography called Bataille de la Moskova, not de Moscou, not of the city Moscow, not of the city of Moscow, but of the river.
Of the river of
Moskva.
And as the campaign advanced, and I think it was by the end of 29th of September, the Polish troops were the first to enter Moscow. I think I'm right in saying.
No, that was in the. I don't remember the exact date. That was around. It was 1 week, let's say 1 week after Borodino that Grand Army entered Moscow, and in fact the Polish cavalry unit, hussars,
yes.
that were these men.
But they got there first. They got there before everybody else.
That was a gesture. So that.
And I think it's true to say that unlike Napoleon, Poniatowski had some sort of inkling that this wasn't going to end particularly well.
I mean, all these guys are very intelligent when they write. I mean, Poniatowski didn't have time, but all these guys are very intelligent post factum.
Of course, yes, we all.
And they say, yes, we all have told Napoleon not to march on Moscow. That he should have stopped at Smolensk. That's what Clausewitz put in his word. That after Smolensk, I mean, when Napoleon took the decision to continue his march after Smolensk, that was the end of the campaign, that he lost the campaign at that time. So these guys are very intelligent in the aftermath. What is the true? We would have to look at sources which are very rare, because the campaign was short. And people didn't have time to write.
You make a point, because when you think of the distances, even today, that was a remarkably short, by the standards of the transport they had available in those days, a remarkably sort of quick to Moscow and back.
Started on the symbolically on the 24th of June 1812, and symbolically ended on the 5th of December, when Napoleon left his troops and
at the end
went to Paris, because he heard that there's a coup going on.